On behalf, welcome you all to the valedictory session of the International Seminar on Designing the Future 2026. It has been a truly enriching journey over the last 2 days, filled with thoughtful discussions, innovative research presentations, and inspiring interactions among scholars, professionals, and students. This concluding session provides us an opportunity to reflect upon the ideas that emerged during the seminar and also to acknowledge the contributions of our participants. We are indebted to Ms. Payal Jain, an acclaimed fashion designer, textile artist, and sustainability advocate, and Dr. Rohan Paul, Associate Professor, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, jointly affiliated to the School of Artificial Intelligence and School of Information Technology, IIT Delhi, for having spared their valuable time to be with us today to grace this valedictory session. As a gesture of gratitude and respect, may I request Professor Dr. Virender Kumar Paul, Director SPA New Delhi, to felicitate our special guest, whose gracious presence has brought a special energy and encouragement to this gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Payal Jain. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Dr. Rohan Paul. In a time when design is increasingly driven by speed and scale, there is renewed importance in practices that engage with material, craft, and process, reminding us of the deeper relationships between design, culture, and sustainability. In this context, we are privileged to have Ms. Payal Jain with us, who is a practitioner whose work reflects all these values. So I'm pleased to introduce her to this learned gathering. Ms. Payal Jain is a renowned Indian fashion designer, celebrated for blending traditional craftsmanship with contemporary designs. A graduate of the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, California, she launched her label in 1993 with a vision of creating timeless and sustainable couture rooted in Indian heritage. Her work is known for its architectural silhouettes and intricate textile traditions such as chikankari along with kantha and bandhani. A strong advocate of sustainable fashion, she collaborates extensively with rural artisans across India. She continues to promote responsible fashion while celebrating India's rich textile legacy. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as I request Ms. Payal Jain to enlighten us with her address. So are we ready with the presentation? Neha, if you can help us. Already there, okay. So we need to coordinate with ma'am on that.
Okay, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Privileged to be here. I know you guys have had 2 days of constant workshops, talks, everything. I'm sure you're very exhausted. So this is something on a lighter, to let you all relax a little bit. Passion comes with that, I think. I'm going to show you this presentation really to talk a little bit about my work, give you a little bit of history of where I started, where I am. I don't know if it interests you, but here I'm going to tell you about it. And then I would really like to interact a little bit with all of you. I know you are bachelor's, master's students. I'm sure everybody has questions on fashion, like everybody has questions on films. So I'd love to be able to answer some questions, and let's make it a little more interactive, because that's what design is about. So when I was talking to Dr. Paul, I said I will talk about how design is a way of life, and whether I'm doing that in fashion, or whether Rohan is doing that in AI or engineering, or you guys are doing in architecture and engineering. Design is at the center of everything we do. Literally, from that stole that I was given by Dr. Paul, to the bag that you're holding, to the pen that you guys, everything is about design. Somebody is designing that, and it's a part of all our lives in very subtle ways that you may not even realize. A lot of you are wearing fast fashion, and I will say a little bit about that later, because I'm sure this generation buys a lot of fast fashion. So just to set the context, we as Indians, and we kind of think sustainably. We were born with that. That is our heritage. For 500 years we have been sustainable. We didn't believe in disposing anything. We didn't believe in throwing away anything. So now suddenly this fast fashion trend has come, and you're all going to Zara's and H&Ms and M's and Mangoes and buying stuff and throwing it. And I'll give you some facts on fast fashion, and maybe that'll get you to think next time you go and buy. Can we move to the next page, please? I don't know who's doing this. Okay, so I'll give you a little background about myself. My father, Dr. Prem Jain, was a consulting engineer. He designed buildings, services of buildings, not architecture. But he always believed that the Mother Earth is our mother. So sustainability was something which was part of my DNA from the time I was born. It was everything that we did was considered sacred. So your natural resources, everything that you put out there was your responsibility. That time we didn't have climate crisis, we didn't have climate change. We were all hunky-dory. We thought life was going to go on like this, we could continue polluting. And here we are today, where it is a crisis. So I will give a little background. That's what the screen talks about, that I believed that sustainability is part of our DNA. It's part of our heritage. It's who we are. And whether we follow that in our as architects, we follow that as engineers, or we follow that as designers, it really should be something we're very mindful of in our practice. It cannot be a byproduct. I'm sure a lot of you are on Instagram, and you see reels about designers, who are supposed to be these page 3 people, certainly not concerned about sustainability, and they're just creating more and more and more and more and more garbage. But even in your spaces, sustainability should be something you really think about. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay. So I will, coming back to my father again, the Panchabhuta is what he always taught us, that everything begins with the 5 elements and we end with the 5 elements. So eventually, when we die, our body goes back into nature: Bhumi, Gagan, Vayu, Agni, and Neer. And in architecture, he always believed that that should be the core of good design. And I don't think it's about architecture. I use that as a textile practice in the fabrics that I create. We do minimal wastage of water. We use natural fabrics, everything that we can. To use as much of natural dyes as possible. It's kind of getting harder and harder. Use minimum energy, which is Agni, and put least out into the environment. Today, there are more clothes in landfills than there are people, human beings on the planet. So the more you're going to buy fast fashion, the more you're going to put out there, it's only going to add. And I'm kind of halfway through my life, or maybe more. So maybe it won't matter in my lifetime, but your lifetime and your children's is definitely going to be affected by all of this garbage which is sitting on the planet. Move to the next, please. Okay, so that is some figures about fast fashion. As I said, please read them. I'm not going to talk about them, because the figures are right there in front of you. And I think this is last year's data, so it's probably changed since. So every time you are discarding something, think how you can repurpose it. Think how you can reuse it. Maybe an old pair of jeans. you have no use of it, or it's tight, or it's out of fashion, or whatever. First choice would be to give it to somebody else who can use it. Second would be maybe repurpose it, cut it up, make a jacket bag, do something, repurpose, recycle whatever you own. Do not throw it, because it will end up in a landfill. And those are some pretty scary figures in front of you. Let's move to the next. Okay, so circularity, and I'll come back to the principle of design, which when Dr. Paul and I spoke, we said, life is about design. And so everything that you are doing, and you are all creative people in your own rights, you're all creating something. You are all going to create something when you get out. Or if you've done your bachelor's, you've already created interesting things. You are also creating a footprint on the planet. And when you go out and design buildings, are they really going to live beyond you? Are they going to be healthy buildings? Are they going to breathe? Are they going to be comfortable to work in? Are they just going to look good? Are they just glass and steel, and you're just going to sit in there and say, oh wow, I designed this building, but I don't care what happens to it when I die? Somebody else's problem. I mean, what is happening with the world? And I was stuck in Dubai for 5 days when this war started. Everything was glass and steel around you, and one missile drops and life is over. So you do not want to build that kind of tomorrow, not for yourself and not for your children. So I do keep coming back to design, because I think that's central to what I'm talking about. Let's move to the next. So when you're designing for sustainability, you are designing for the future. You're designing, and I'm not talking textile, I'm just talking design in general. You're designing for a longer lifespan. You're designing with the intention that it can be repurposed or reinvented. Even spaces can be reinvented and repurposed. You can take an old building and give it a new life, and give it. And I see a lot of, and I work with a lot of students where they take old dilapidated buildings, and they've been able to repurpose them to become spaces which become community centers, or they become markets for craft people, local craft people to sell. So it's just, as architects, this is your responsibility to make some change. Not just, yes, you need to make money, you need to get rich, you need to be famous and all of that, but you also need to do something for your soul beyond that. Next, please. So these are some of the things that we follow, but this is very textile related, and I'll let you read it. I'm sure in architecture and engineering it'd be very different, but this is really just food for thought for all of you to think about how you can embed longevity into your practices when you get out there, when you're designing for the real world. And maybe some of you already are. Okay, go to the next. Now, this is where we start, and I'll come back to textile. So this is where you start with the cotton, with the yarn. This is what you start with, spinning, if it is natural. Move to the next, please. Then you weave it, and so this is still yarn getting dyed. And this is how traditionally it was done. It's still done like that. In Banaras, in a lot of cities, it's still done like that. Now the government has imposed a lot of restrictions in Delhi NCR, because you are putting affluence out there from synthetic dyes, but the whole world still continues to wear synthetic dyes and continues to buy it. So, how are you going to stop that? Move to the next, please. This is how it is woven. So this is the process of what we create. We start from the yarn, we then dye the yarn, then we weave the fabrics. A lot of it is done in outskirts of Banaras. Some of it is block printed. This is how traditionally block print was done. And this is still sustainable, because they still use vegetable dyes. They will still take a piece of wood, cut a block out of it. And then eventually then that block has lived its life. They remove the top layer and create a new block out of it. So it was sustainable in every possible way you could think of. Move to the next. That's what would come out of it. And that's that's about a 30-year-old collection that you're seeing. One of my first when I started. This is chikankari. Again, it's a very, it's a women-centric craft, which is what drew me to it. So there are no men who know chikankari. Men never do chikankari. It's only done by women, and it's done by women sitting in their homes. And what is so special about it is one piece, and when you're buying it, they will not tell you that, but when you go to buy a chikankari outfit, that one piece has taken them 12 weeks to do. One single woman would take 12 weeks, because the embroidery is done on the front, is done on the back, and hours and hours and hours. Unfortunately, this is also vanishing, because there's so many other options for people to do. So there are less and less women doing chikankari. Let's move to the next. That is an outfit in chikankari, just to connect the dots for you. That's all chikankari done at different times. That's Zardozi. So these are all Indian crafts that I work with. Please keep going. That is again Zardozi being used in a garment. That is bandhani, comes from Rajasthan, and there's some zardozi in it, and there's the pink one is a chicken curry. So if I can use traditional crafts and make them look really modern, and that's the same in architecture or engineering. You use traditional values, use traditional knowledge, traditional roots that you were given, and contemporize them. I mean, look at the monuments around you in Delhi. It just they're case studies how they remain cool in the summer and warm in the winter. They had nothing to cool or heat them. Yes, please keep going. Just some more images. This was really kind of to set context of what I do. Keep going. That is also Zardozi. That is again Zardozi. This was a hand embroidered collection inspired by an artist. And just some thoughts that I will leave with you at the end. That's it. Thank you. You can close. So I think I've spoken enough. It'll be lovely if. Thank you. It'll be lovely if somebody has questions. I'm sure you all have questions. Somebody has questions on fast fashion, on something to do with clothing. All of you go buy clothing. I mean, what do you think of when you go and buy? I mean, what is it? Do you think sustainability? Do you think that it's a natural fabric, will feel better against the skin? Or do you not care? Do you just look at the price tag and just buy it? And okay, it's cheap and choppy, and so it's okay. Well, let's buy it. I'd love to hear from the students here at least. Anybody? Please. Yeah. Of course. And it's not just about threat to the craft, it's threat to your body, to your skin. You're wearing polyester. There are microplastics in it that are getting absorbed by your skin. If you're not even thinking, so you're having your protein shake, you're eating healthy, you're sitting in an air purifier room and you're thinking all is hunky dory, but you're wearing polyester on your skin. That's getting embedded in your skin. So people are not thinking about that. So all sportswear, most of the sportswear is all polyester. Most of what fast fashion brands sell is all polyester. They say it's recycled, so maybe 30% of it is recycled, but even that, even when it is recycled, it still is polyester at the end of the day. And you are putting it closest to your body against your skin. And if the customer becomes, so if the people who are buying this fast fashion become aware, that'll be the change. I don't think change can happen by people talking about how much of a threat it is or how uncomfortable it is. Or I mean, it is uncomfortable. You wear polyester, you know the difference. You wear cotton, you wear wool, you know the difference. So we all know it. If we still and it's not like natural is more expensive. It's not. It's also not less fashionable or less trendy in that sense. I just think we've gotten tuned to this whole space of just walking into a Zara, picking up 6 things, wearing them 6.5 times, and then chucking them. And or they sit there somewhere in the back of our closet. They don't have a lifespan. They don't have the longevity. If you bought a cotton kurta, I mean, just think about what you're wearing. If you bought it 5 years ago, you can still wear it today, and you may still wear it 5 years later. Exactly my point. So it's still as relevant in fashion. And if everybody started thinking that collectively, I think that just fast fashion will in Europe it is on its way out. I mean, they were going to open a Shine in Paris, and there were riots on the roads. So they couldn't open the first store. I mean, it's really the worst is this Temu and Shine, and they do the $2. What are they going to give you in $2? Really, in 200 rupees or 400? What are they going to give you? Trash. Obviously, you're still willing to buy that trash for 400 rupees versus worrying about your body. So if that audience becomes aware, I think the trends will change. They are already changing in our industry. They are really changing. At least designers are very mindful of what they are creating, how much they are creating, and how much they need to create. I think consumer consciousness is primary. And sadly, it's all social media driven. And so if social media is going to throw all this at you every 30 seconds, then you get tempted to buy it. But like you won't go and stay in a hotel or in a room which has no air quality, has no windows. Why will you buy polyester? It's really the same thing. You're buying something which doesn't breathe and you're wearing it day after day after day. So I think that really is, yeah, consumer consciousness to me is primary. It's about trend setting. So I think what is trending right now is organic, is natural. So in food, if it's organic, why not in clothing? So we tend to disassociate. In food, we'll say, okay, I'll go buy organic eggs, I'll buy organic sabzi, I'll do it organic, and I'll buy olive oil, and I'll make myself healthy. But for clothes, we don't think about it. Why won't you buy organic? Why won't you buy natural? It's your second skin. Actually, it's more important than what you're putting inside your body, because you either breathe through it or you don't breathe through it, and hours and hours you're not breathing through it. I don't know. I don't even want to go there. I mean, why do you need a Zudio on the planet? Really, tell me about it. No, but Zudio is not pushing it down your throat. The thing is, there's algorithms. So if you're watching if you're going to watch Zudio, they're going to send you 10,000 more Zudios. If you watch an organic or a natural textile, that's what you'll see. So it is awareness at the end of the day. If you are conscious of it, you won't be seeing that content, or you'll be sifting through that content and seeing what is more. So that they are smart enough to keep pushing down your throat whatever they feel you're interested in. Even if you spend 3 seconds on it, they've got it. Even if you're talking and your phone is listening to everything. So you're saying, oh, I love that thing on that Zara did, or whoever, this fast fashion polyester. I don't care if Kareena Kapoor is wearing it, I love it, I want to have it. I don't care whether it's polyester. So I mean, if you're not aware, then what's next. And so I think also people need to be talking. So whether it's Bollywood or people who matter, or authors, or people who are being heard, if they were creating this awareness, it would spread faster. And I think some of them are, but just not enough. Just not enough of them. Not really. But if you versus that, and it's not Madhubani to start with. It's not Madhubani to. So I have a question. No, I know, but no, but see, if would you rather have that one 12,000 sari, or would you rather have 200 of those 500 rupee ones? So that's the question at the end of the day. But, no, but let me tell you, fast fashion isn't coming cheap. It's coming with a very. You think they can buy something for less than 1,200 rupees in a Zara or a Mango? They can't. Maybe. Oh my God! I'd rather not go to studio. Absolutely. For everyone, yes. It is, but it is. See, you're comparing a 12,000 silk Madhubani. You can buy it in cotton also. What you're buying for 500 is polyester. So then you switch to cotton. No, don't buy silk. So everything is available. I mean, you buy a beautiful kurta from a Delhi Hart or one of that Kisan Hart, or Gurjari or somewhere. it won't be 5,000 rupees. No, it'll be 200, 1,200, 1,400. But then what is cheap in a Zara or a Mango? Maybe Zudio is, but I'm not going to go there because that's rock bottom of the pie. That's below ground for me. So but nothing is, and the youngsters are spending whatever they earn on fast fashion. So they may have 20 that they have bought versus they'll have 5 or 6. But those 6 will last them 8 years. And these 20 will be finished in, 1 month or 2 or 3, because you get bored of it so quickly. Because it is at the end of the so related to trends today. And that trend change in fashion, it changes every 2 weeks. Let me tell you, every 2 weeks you walk into a store, you'll see something new on the racks. That's the whole point. They want to hook you through that newness. Yeah, but here the question is, will you buy a hybrid or will you buy a diesel? So whether it's a big or a small, you have that choice to buy an electric or a hybrid car. But will you still buy a big car which is diesel and is going to put out so much pollution into the air? So I think that's the difference. It's not about big or small. It's not about, yeah, it's the consciousness. I would still buy a hybrid. It's not about big or small. Or I'd buy an electric if the distance that I was commuting every day was doable in an electric. But are we thinking about, we go for a car, we're only thinking big or small? No, we're not even thinking hybrid. Even in the big, there are hybrid, there are electric, there are all of that. So those choices will always be lesser. There'll be more of the garbage available. I mean, that's how it is. Stitched. Of course, it'll be machine stitched. Yeah. No, it certainly exists. Maybe it's a smaller segment. Competing. They're not competing. Yeah. You do have, by the way, you have enough. Every designer has a presence in Kolkata. So I don't know who they are selling to. I do, and I think most designers now do Pret lines. So I do a Pret line, which is affordable, but yeah, it's not in the 2 500. But then you have to be able to churn out very large numbers to be in that segment. I don't have the wherewithal for that. So because it is craft centric, also when I work with crafts, the craft people cannot produce. They just can't. I'm not going to make them a factory and say now you give me 2,000 pieces every month. I can't. They can't do it. Like the chicken curry I was talking about, it takes 8 weeks for one piece to be done, and that is my USP. So that is my niche in the market. But there are designers who are doing the very affordable, the very young, like they're doing denims, they're doing cool T-shirts, they're doing pants, they're doing just young clothing, and it's not craft based, but it is natural fabrics. So then they would fit into that segment, and there's people at every level. It's just, I think it's your ethos, and I would love to do the 500, but I just can't because my craft doesn't allow me to. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But in that segment is you're competing with the fast fashion brands. And I don't have the deep pockets that are fast fashion because I'm competing with the same customer who's going to walk into a Zara or a Mango or a Zudio. And they'll still do that. Why will they come and buy natural from a designer? So then, you have to have that bandwidth to be able to put that kind of money out in advertising. I mean, everybody in this room knows Zudio. How do you know it? They're not putting banners in front of your faces. They're just advertising. It's being thrown at you every minute from some. Yeah, of course, but you're never going to compete with them. Yeah, and there are plenty in Delhi also, by the way. Absolutely, and I truly believe that is the way to go. I truly believe that. No, I am engaging in it. I just am not engaging in the fast fashion segment of 2 to 5. It is, but then I don't have the capability to sell to 10 million people. So you also have to have that infrastructure, the distribution network, and you can't open three small stores and make it work. You can't. It is, of course. True. And somebody has to pay the bills, no? At the end of the day, if you employ an X number of people, you can't tell them, well, today I didn't sell anything, so go home and, even then, also, I don't think a customer will expect a designer to be, then they'll still not buy it. So it's also mindset, it's conditioning. It's how designers have been conditioned to fit into your brain. You would not, if I sold something for 300, you'll say it's garbage. I don't want it. Why are you selling it? So that's, you'll still go to a, say, Zudio or a Manevar. I mean, I'll put Manevar as the next level because they do everything which is kind of mechanized. So they do machine embroidered chicken and they're selling it. They're not even educating the customer. They're just saying आप chicken खरीद लो. और वो 3,000 रुपए में खरीद रहे हैं, खुश हो रहे हैं, घर जाके पहन रहे हैं, से हमने चिकन कारी खरीद लिया. Somebody at the back.
I think let's move on. Let's, let's move on.
Yeah. One last question. I'm not aware of it. I believe it is something to be researched. I'm sure there are. It is. It is. I agree. I agree. But yeah, I'm not the research expert. So, but yes, you're right. There is, even to map out this demographic. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. I think I'm overshot on time. I would like to know your thoughts on the fashion industry's awareness, if you will, about not just preserving traditional Indian knowledge and skills. You've demonstrated very beautifully that you work with, but not just preserving them, but about patenting them and even GI tagging them. This question is set against the backdrop of the very infamous So the GI tagging is definitely happening with a lot of clusters. I'm working with an organization which does this GI tagging. The name escapes my mind, but they're working with 7 or 8 states and doing the GI tagging. So that is bringing credibility. So that's definitely one big one. We've been talking about textile certification in India, and we've gone and met the textile minister and approached them and said that all craft should have a certification. So, like you said, Madhubani printed in Surat is being sold as Madhubani. What I'm saying, Manevar is selling machine embroidered chicken curry. So to an average customer, they don't know the difference. But if there is a tag which says this is crafted by hand, this is who made it, this was the time it took, similar to GI tagging, that would be a certification that Indian government should have. And we've been talking about it for 5 years now, and I don't see it moving. But I hope that, because that is something only the government can do. But that would separate the real from the copycats, and that is important even for a customer who goes to buy. Why are you paying that 5,000? You know what went into it. Otherwise you don't even want to pay 500, rightly so. So yeah, that's a larger conversation. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable insights and such an engaging discussion with all of us. I almost forgot that I am supposed to be the Sutradhar for this event. so, so this became more of a discussion session, but everybody was so engaged because all of us, I don't know, maybe I might be wrong. I mean, want to look in a certain way, right? So we want to copy what we are seeing in the movies, and I don't know, maybe the friends are wearing. But since I have the privilege to use the podium, so I'm just giving my thoughts through the podium itself. So I feel when it comes to affordability, right? So instead of leaving maybe 10 different polyester saris for my daughter, so I would probably save money to buy a good Madhubani sari and leave as a legacy, because this is our culture, our tradition that we need to preserve, and this is how the continuity will be maintained. Yeah. So your contributions, ma'am, to design and your commitment to innovation and sustainability are truly inspiring for all of us. And in the Department of Architecture, we are taking one elective course, which is titled Architectural Reporting Beyond Frames and Forms, and where the students are actually exploring the various aspects of fast. So it is fast fashion, fast production, fast food, even fast shopping through the lens of systems thinking. And we are trying to make the students community of SP aware of what they are wearing. So they are doing small workshops, activities wherein the students, they are asking their peers to like look at the labels. So what is the material that your particular outfit is composed of, and where do you think it will ultimately go? So would you like to preserve it and give it to the next generation, or are you going to throw it to a landfill? So we are also trying to look at it, but we would love to, talk to you again. So thank you so much for coming to, SPA and inspiring us. So next we move on. In today's rapidly evolving landscape, technology is not only transforming how we design, but also how we think, learn, and make decisions. So it invites us to reconsider the relationships between machine intelligence, systems, and human interaction. In this context, we now turn to a perspective which comes from Dr. Rohan Paul, whose research engages deeply with these questions and explores the evolving frontiers of artificial intelligence and intelligent systems. So it is now my privilege to introduce him to all of you. Dr. Rohan Paul is an associate professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at IIT Delhi, where he is also jointly affiliated with the School of Artificial Intelligence and the School of Information Technology. He pursued BTech and MTech degrees at IIT Delhi, a doctorate in philosophy degree at Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, and conducted postdoctoral research at MIT, USA. His research spans robotics and AI and assistive technologies for the differently abled. So he's a recipient of 2 national awards, named one of the 35 global innovators under the age of 35 by MIT Review for his contribution in developing the smart cane for the visually challenged. He currently leads research in intelligent robotics and assistive devices supported via research grants from DRDO, DIA, that is Industry Academia Centers of Excellence by DRDO, ICMR, Ministry of Education, and DST in India. So huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, as I invite Dr. Paul.
Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here. Firstly, thank you so much to Director SPA for inspiring this series of talks on design and various aspects of human-centric design. It's a real privilege to be here, and also thanks to the organizers who've done a lot of hard work in bringing this program together. I come from a technology background, and I have the privilege of being at IIT Delhi. And apart from academics and research, this institute also is often asked to address different challenges faced in different domains of society. So what I thought as the theme for this presentation are just few examples of efforts that I've had an opportunity to be part of, and through these small contributions, what have been our learnings in terms of design. Next slide, please. So we've been talking about design, and we heard a fantastic, talk earlier about the everyday choices and everyday interaction with design. And one can see design as not just from the aesthetic kind of a lens, but in some sense a very creative process that is evolving new solutions and new innovations. And I would also claim that technological innovation and technological discovery is also a design process. Right? You start with something complex, which is amorphous, you break it down into small pieces, and then come up with a solution which is usable or testable in the real world. There's been a strong connection between design and scientists, and Richard Feynman and many others use various simplistic designs to visualize very complex interactions, let's say in physics or many other areas as well. So design cannot be confined to one particular discipline. I think design pervades every discipline. And in some sense, every discipline requires a design lens to see problems and come up with solutions within that. And more importantly, I think we would like each one of us to be designers because through design, we innovate, we create new solutions, and new solutions take our technology forward. Next slide, please. So one of the lines of work that I've had an opportunity to contribute towards are technologies for inclusion, and technologies for inclusion for persons with visual impairment. And the story goes as follows. In 2004, I, along with a couple of my colleagues at IIT Delhi, had an opportunity to interact at the National Association for the Blind in India. And the goal was to develop a technology solution for a challenge that they were facing. And what came out of this was this challenge of independent mobility. So each one of us would have seen a person with blindness carry a stick, right? And the stick is used to tap on the ground. Right? And that's been a persona of a blind person for many years. After the World War II, the white canes came into existence, and it has not changed or not transformed since then. Now, though it will function in a very structured kind of an environment, in an environment or in a built environment like India, there is a lot of complexity. And you see here, there are some examples of a person whose cane is going under the side of a truck, and the person will get injured in the upper body or on the face. Now, a similar kind of a situation also happens when you're walking, let's say, on the roadside, where you will not detect a tree branch or a protruding AC in the corridor. Again, you're going to get upper body injuries. Now, what is special about these injuries is the fact that it happens all of a sudden. Right, so it gives a lot of anxiety, and people develop a lot of fear of moving independently. And that, if you're not independently mobile, then you're not going to go to your school without sighted assistance. You're going to be curtailed in many other dimensions of social interaction as well. So the whole goal was to develop a technological solution that increases the range of the white cane, and then fundamentally the white cane itself. So you can keep. So all of these are videos. So the one with the yellow, if you can just click on that. It's the one in yellow, yeah, the one below. You just iske niche wala. Yeah, so the lowermost it'll play a certain kind of an animation. So what's happening there? Or okay, so let's play this one on the left. If you just click on the play thing, right? So the solution is a handle-shaped device. Is it not playing? Okay, something has happened to the video. But let me just show. So this is what the device looks like. So this is the white cane. The white cane comes with a certain kind of a handle, and this one has ultrasonic ranging in front, right? So the ultrasound is going to do ranging in form of a beam, and this produces vibrations on the unit. And these vibrations are now going to change as in relation to the distance. So the distance is very far away, you get very feeble vibrations, and then the vibratory patterns are going to change. I think you can sort of see the acoustic signature as well, right? And that's something which gives you pre-warning in terms of what is going to come in front. Now, this entire technology is self-contained. All the processing and everything gets contained within the handle. Now, why the handle? Because the white cane itself is part of their persona. They know, this thing really, they've been using that for a long time. So you don't want to replace what they're comfortable with. You just simply want to augment. Let's say the cane breaks, it gets into, somebody hits on it, or it gets bent, or it gets broken, then these are aluminum pipes. So you want to replace it as well, right? So that's why you have this handle-shaped design that fits on the cane. And you can sort of see the design process. The image on the top right is us collecting data at NAB in 2004 of how people are actually holding the cane. And we also found that there's no anthropometric kind of data available at this time on visually impaired and their use. So this data had to be also collected. From there, the angle orientations and the kind of the sensor design has come up. Finally, if the video plays, you would see this is a user in Bombay who's using this technology to walk independently in Chhatrapati station, which is a very crowded kind of an area, and you are able to display a lot of graceful navigation and not getting concerned about these objects, these hazards which are going to come. What we learned about 2 months of use was the fact that she has actually now stopped using any sighted assistance. Previously, her sister used to go with her to her place of work, and now she started going independently, right? So that's the kind of self-confidence that can get developed by using such a technology. And on the bottom right, you see a training session in which multiple users are being taught how to use this. So the technology part has to be also associated with a training program, because we're talking about technology adoption and absorption at this point. Now, that means you have to look at also the psychosocial aspects and the fact that you're dealing with a stigmatized person, and it's also important to make them comfortable in use of technology in their everyday kind of use. So this is a training program running now. The training program runs nationally, at least one site in every state. Next slide, please. If you can just go to the next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. And interestingly, as technologists, we design for a certain kind of a use case, but once it gets starting, it gets absorbed in the real life use, new novel use cases emerge. So what you're seeing on the top right is somebody detecting a cow while walking on the roadside, because if you hit a cow with a cane, very bad things can happen, right? So, and there's also a garbage dump, and you can avoid that because you get sensory feedback before you actually come in contact. You see another girl using this at a construction kind of an area where she would actually get hurt if she's not using this technology. And finally, also some other subtle use cases. For example, blind people find it very difficult to negotiate social settings. So if you're in a meeting, or if you're standing and having food with somebody, you don't want to keep tapping on their leg again and again, right? You don't want to make unwanted contact, particularly with a person of the opposite gender. And these kinds of use cases started emerging. So this is at Delhi airport, a visually impaired person is maintaining distance and not going and touching the person in front again and again. So again, these are use cases that we had not anticipated. Next slide, please, which emerged from the user's design itself. And as designers, we cannot stop at just technology, and that's the point of this slide. It requires training, it requires talking and connecting with communities across the country, and setting up a entire cluster of technology dissemination kind of sites, working with partners and NGOs and government, etc., to disseminate this kind of a technology. And finally, it's also going to be manufactured, and you have to work with local industry as well. So the device is manufactured entirely in India, barring modular, some kind of parts which may not exist within India, but large majority of the fabrication and assembly and everything, even the testing part, happens in Chennai. So it's part of the Government of India's Apex National Program on Technology for Persons with Disabilities, a program called ADIP, which allows people at really the base of the pyramid to get access to this technology. And the Honorable, Prime Minister himself has distributed some of these devices at certain events, which is the image in the middle. And on the right, you see something that we learned much later, is that somebody, a film person, saw this technology and sort of embedded that in a movie called Netrika. It's a South Indian movie, and the lead is visually impaired. That's Nayantara, and she uses this device. And this is happening not with our intervention. So I mean, we somebody just informed that this kind of a thing has happened, but this happened because the technology is embedded within the community, and the community takes it forward. All the trainers, majority of them are either associations for the blind or blind persons themselves. And they're really good trainers because they know themselves as to how to explain it to another visually challenged person. And that's what's been captured in the movie as well. So the movie talks about the lead actress getting adjusted to blindness and the training happening. And this is the training protocol that was designed at our lab, but then it has been executed by persons, the trainers at these communities. Next slide, please. And this is, in some sense, a timeline of technology development. And one needs to remember that the complex design takes a lot of time. Right? It's taken 10 years of effort to go from a prototype, like a student level prototype, the way you would design these technologies, but to really get it to a fabrication level at a usable thing requires number of factors to be there. And in hindsight, we would like to really shrink that cycle significantly. And the shrinking will happen if you consider design for manufacturability right at the design stage, and involve the user also very much at an earlier stage. And I think that's been critical of why this technology is also called a people's product. I mean, IIT has only been the catalyst for this formation, but it's really the people's involvement right in the design process. This is very, very central to this development. Next slide, please. I'm not sure whether the video will play, but you can try to play that. Now with AI, you can do more things, right? So with AI, you can have you have the ability to even do training. I think the video is not playing, but I can just talk about it. That AI can also help you how to use the cane, right? So there are very few trainers, and it's very difficult to train people into appropriately using this technology. So you can have a small AI embedded into the device itself, which allows you to monitor the gait and the mobility pattern of a person. So I can say this person is extending, the deflection is too much. They're extending it laterally too much, and they need to reduce that kind of feedback can come in. So the image on the right is showing the analytics coming in real time. This is green is a good zone, red is a bad zone, because then you will start hitting everywhere else, etc. And you can get that remotely on your portal. So the trainer can be in Delhi, but the training can happen remotely in some other part of the city. Another thing to mention here is that once you start working in this kind of an area, you get more and more problems to work on, right? There's just so much of stuff that needs to be done, and I'll give you a couple of examples in that, right, in this way. One of the main challenges of this kind of a technology is the fact that it's very difficult to train people to use them. Use this kind of device. So about 2 lakh of these units have been in the field, but the real population is much larger. So why is that why is the utilization rate a bit lower than what we would think? Though this number exceeds, this is probably the first technology of its kind, developed within the country, which has even reached these numbers. Typically for ATs, people are generally happy if you have 500 or that kind of a number, but it's. That's particularly. So, and why is there this gap? The gap is because their access to technology and their special education training is very weak at the school level. Interestingly, by the age of 4, almost say it's 90% of the brain connections are already in place. So if till the age of 4, you have not been given compensatory skills, or if not been provided with tactile perception of a certain kind, then you cannot learn these skills later on. And that's what special kids are really missing. So if they don't have the foundation to compete because of these kinds of challenges, that's really what's going on. So now what's really happened is that we've changed entirely our focus of developing for adults to also start catering for the pediatric kind of population. It turns out when you look at canes itself, there is no pediatric cane, and So that's why our center, supported by ICMR, has developed a children's cane. Right. So this cane is really short in the sense the size is like really small, but more importantly, you can think of designing for a child not like shrinkage of an adult cane. That's not going to work. A child is not a small adult, right? So the child operates in an ecosystem or a milieu which is very different. So you have to look at what other things they're using. So this is inspired by toys that they play with, right? So it produces a sound of this kind, and they can keep changing this, right, to get some other kind of a sensory feedback as well. Also, the child grows very quickly. So you need something which is adjustable. So you can put in more of these pipes, and they've been calculated through anthropometric data coming from NID, etc., so that you're not affected, right? And then there are things around grips that has been done. And more interestingly, now there's a connection between children's cane design and toy design. So we talked about sustainable, or traditional crafts. These are traditional toys, right? So traditional toys are everywhere, right? So these kinds of toys you can go and you see in Delhi Heart, you will see all of these kinds of toys, and the cane can be retrofitted. So we designed something, or our center has been engaged in designing these attachments that allow any traditional toy to be connected to the cane, and then the child can start using and working with these kinds of things. So this is in some sense a reflection. At this point, it is less technology and more sort of a creative kind of pursuit. And we're even thinking, or to in some sense make this like a competition, in the sense that we can have workshops where you can come in and many of the other design or architecture, any other student can come in and modify this as appropriate, right? So that's where this kind of stuff is going, right? So that's I think really crucial to think about children. And when you think about children, you've got to think also about the schools that they're going into. The other focus area I'll mention, and not talk too much about, but briefly mention, is the dimension of education. And I think education, particularly for special kids, requires tremendous innovation. Now, a basic problem for a child with blindness is that they cannot see any diagram, right? So if the teacher is making any diagram, any map, that's not accessible. And I think that becomes that's a challenge which is going to prevent them from doing any science, geography, biology, etc., etc. So our lab has been working in that area to how to make tactile books, right? Can use 3D printing and print out some of these diagrams for tactile perception, and a couple of other tools that have emerged. So this is called the Tacto board. It is essentially a perforated kind of a mesh kind of a design, on which when you put a parchment paper and then you try to make some kind of a diagram, it leaves a certain kind of an impression right away. So what the teacher can do is basically make a diagram on this Tacto board, and then immediately it's accessible and tactile to you on the other side, right? So the innovation is largely in the use of the combination of this and what kind of a tactile effort is needed in order to make impressions on that. And it continues. For example, if you look at 3D perception is largely missing in blind children. If you ask them about sizes, or you ask them about cuboids and these kinds of things, they don't have that kind of a conceptual structure. So this is an effort to basically use origami inspired designs to do 3D shapes for them, right? What does a pyramid look like, and how do these things open up so that they can develop some kind of a conceptual structure about what assembly is, what 3D shapes. Work is called Shapescapes. It's now released, and this was actually work from a design student who really went into this problem of 3D and how do you make 3D from 2D, and how do you build this kind of conceptual structures, because this is the foundation on which science is going to stand, or biology is going to stand later on, and these interventions are really needed. So there have been a couple of workshops that have happened, and I think the technology is there, and maybe in the future these things can be injected more in society. If you can go to the next slide, please. I'll just briefly mention that it's not just about one domain, right? So assistive technology for persons with disabilities is one example. I'll just briefly mention that these principles are also extensible to other areas of work as well. So one of the areas in our lab is looking at soldier safety, or first responder safety in a general sense. Soldiers who are operating in fairly difficult conditions, who are doing missions like search and rescue, face tremendous challenges. Next slide, please. And for them, we have been looking at development of unmanned systems. So these are robotic platforms powered by AI, which you can ask a machine to go before the soldier goes. Now, that also extends to disaster relief. It also extends to fire and many other kinds of disaster settings where you don't want to risk the first responder. You will send the machine inside first. So you're seeing AI-based capabilities of generic motor skills, of picking an object, retrieving an object, maybe hazard handling and those kinds of capabilities. So what's being designed here is an end-to-end capability, which is, the human can talk to the machine as if it's another teammate. So on the radio, you can say the machine goes inside. Is there any survivor? Is the survivor lying under some debris? Remove the debris, so on and so forth. And those are the kind of capabilities which are building in. The reason I'm sort of bringing this up also in a design kind of a viewpoint is that design takes certain technology as fundamental units on which the solution emerges. Now, as technology progresses, the base at which design is going to stand is also going to expand. So today, these machines may not exist, but these machines are coming. In 5 to 10 year time horizons, we'll start seeing unmanned systems almost everywhere, right? Doing a number of different kinds of technologies. So we should also be mindful of the base of the technology itself. Similarly, India has also embarked upon the National Semiconductor Mission, which is now going to also start building fundamentally the integrated circuits, for which there's always been a Chinese dependency or many other dependency. Now that is going to, really, really change innovation. We're not going to be, we can fabricate our own chips. We can embed these chips into anything that we want in the future, right? So those developments are going to fundamentally change what are the primitives of design on which we are working. Next slide, please. So those are also emerging. You can play the video on the left side. This is, again, the ground vehicle going on a mission doing autonomous navigation. Left वाला click करेंगे तो चलना start होना चाहिए, right? Maybe we can proceed. Okay, so it'll keep playing. So this is the machine is going to be given a task of doing a survey of a particular area, so it will move autonomously, it will avoid obstacles, etc., etc. This is work being conducted under a DRDO program on soldier safety. So the machine goes, and then it has these other AI capabilities of cognition and algorithmic ways of dealing with whether it has reached the bag, what is it finding, then it's open its hand. It's going to open its hand and then start doing, it'll scan the environment and things of that kind. So teammate kind of technologies are going to emerge. Both in terms of machines, but also in terms of general AI. So the human plus AI systems are going to come up. So what you're seeing here is a visual navigation to see, have I reached the back of the building and do I see something here? Now you can imagine this, that let's say in a factory there is a spillage and the human doesn't want to go there, and you send this thing inside. Again, in a disaster setting, it's something similar. So those technologies will emerge in the 10 to 20 kind of years kind of a time frame of development. Next slide, please. And these are also going to, you can skip this one, go to the next one, please. I would also mention these technologies may not be in the lab, but they're also coming in homes. So some of the research effort that we are exploring is that, can we have these machines to support caregivers? Let's say people are looking after the elderly or people with persistent kind of a need, let's say a paralyzed person, etc. Can we have these machines do certain tasks, like bring a certain kind of an object, monitor them in a particular way? So you see here a robot being given a command of giving a piece of cloth on my hand, and on the left hand side you're saying that, okay, I want these objects to be assembled, or like say this is a morning medicine, this has to be placed here, and the machine will go and do that. And by that time the caregiver can go do some other kinds of tasks. Right. So again, these are on the horizon. They are not at the moment in a deployment kind of a mode, but there is active work happening on these kinds of things. So as designers, you can visualize the home very differently now. You can visualize an ICU very differently with AI and these kinds of technologies, and something that one is really excited about. So I'm going to now start concluding, and let's just go to the next slide and say, in some sense, what are the lessons from all of this work? Right. I'll basically emphasize 3 points. Number one is immersion is the key. Traditionally we thought of doing science and then translating science for society, which is fine, which has been very useful and tremendously valuable. But maybe the pace at which people or society expects solutions from us is much more from the rate at which we are translating technology. So probably the time has come for us to go from community to lab to community, or field to lab to community. That we start with some assumptions, we then develop solutions, and then go back to the community. Second, anybody working in a silo is going to find limitations in capabilities. So it's very important to collaborate and work with different partners at different stages of development towards a larger objective of impacting society. And finally, I'll say it's also co-creation with the end users. I think that's really, really important, because a lot of time we do design with a lot of passion, and then we find that the need is actually slightly very different, or sometimes it just requires a very different way of thinking. So I think co-creation with end users is going to be very fundamental. Next slide, please. And I'll end here by having two icons. Father of the nation who talks about indigenous development. In fact, he's weaving khadi, which is very central to today. And also, Vivekanand, who said that really give a clarion call to people to work for national benefit. And I think design is going to be very fundamental for achieving a Viksit Bharat for 2047. With that, I'll end. Thank you so much.
Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I want my voice back. It was so simple, right? So technology again, so it became a hindrance. But thank you so much, sir, for enlightening all of us. And your session indeed was really thought-provoking. So, okay, so moving on, one of the most valuable aspects of any academic gathering is the opportunity to reflect and actually learn from the experience. So as we move towards the conclusion of this seminar, we now invite a few concluding reflections that will help us look back on the ideas shared and the conversations initiated over these 3 days. So aligning with this intent, may I now invite Professor Dr. Jyoti Pandey Sharma, HOD Architecture, SP New Delhi, and she is also the convener of this seminar, to kindly share her valedictory remarks with all of us. So ma'am, we can continue definitely. So when we'll have, I hope you will stay back with us for lunch, sir. We won't allow you to leave.
So good afternoon, everyone. I have been tasked to summarize the activities of the past 2.5 days. So for the benefit of all of us, I will do it track-wise, and Poonam ma'am will then summarize in general, and that'll how it'll be. So we had 5 thematic tracks, and we had 2 working paper tracks. So I'm going to read the major findings. It's rather long, but I'm going to keep it very short, so I've kind of underscored what needs to be read out. So since all of you were there, track 1 was on youth leadership and social entrepreneurship, that focused on spatial inequality, women's safety within Delhi's built environment, the role of youth as catalysts in shaping urban nighttime economy, function of museums as spatial instruments that support and nurture creative culture. It critically unpacked how uneven access to infrastructure, services, and opportunities continue to shape lived experiences across urban populations, particularly for vulnerable groups. A key takeaway from track 1 was the importance of community engagement as a path forward with inclusive participation, especially of women and youth, seen as critical in shaping responsive and resilient urban environments. Track 2 focused on creative cultures and identity. It presented a rich and interdisciplinary exploration of how cultural practices, spatial transformations, and socio-economic transitions shape contemporary urban and regional environments. The presentations collectively, by and large, foregrounded the significance of understanding identity as a dynamic and context-responsive construct that emerged from everyday spatial experiences, traditional knowledge systems, and evolving urban processes. The participants in this particular track emphasized the importance of grounding theoretical insights in empirical research and context-sensitive planning frameworks. The discussions underscored the need for interdisciplinary collaborations, stakeholder engagement, and policy innovation to translate conceptual understandings of culture and identity into actionable design and governance strategies. Track 3 was inclusive design and social futures. It highlighted that inclusive design is not a singular concept, requires a nuanced understanding across
various social, economic, and physical levels to be truly effective. The session emphatically underscored the power of interdisciplinary synergy, where design interventions are must bridge the gap between technology, social sciences, urban planning to create meaningful social futures. There was also a discussion on data-driven interventions, as well as the idea of moving away from theory to action, and with future research being focused intensely on specific aspects of space design to yield deeper and more actionable insights. The conclusion drawn emphasized that the path forward lies in combining focused research efforts with conclusive technologies to ensure that design acts as a primary driver for equitable societal growth. Track 4 was on technology for transformation. The session focused on key technological advancements in the built environment, like innovations in construction material, evolving approaches to mobility planning, oral architecture, and the complex relationship between land use and transport dynamics. Overall, the discussions reflected a shift towards interdisciplinary thinking, where material innovation, sensory design, and integrated planning approaches collectively contribute to creating sustainable, efficient, and human-centric urban environments. The final track, which is track 5, was focused on creative education and future learning systems. This track explored the evolving interactions between creativity, pedagogy, technological transformation, and human well-being in shaping future design learning environments. It stressed on rethinking architectural pedagogy all over again, and to cultivate critical thinking, experiential knowledge, ethical awareness, and contextual responsiveness in a rapidly changing socio-technological landscape. The track underscored that future creative education must balance technological innovation with embodied learning, socio-ecological responsibility, and human-centered design thinking, integrating research, critical inquiry, and contextual awareness into the architectural curricula, emerging as essential for preparing thoughtful practitioners capable of navigating complex global challenges. Apart from these 5 thematic tracks, we also had 2 working tracks, Working Paper 1 and Working Paper 2, which were works in progress. So in the Working Paper 1 series, overall, the papers in this session underscored that the community is not a static entity, but a dynamic construct shaped by everyday social, economic, and political arrangements at the human scale. A key area of convergence lay in the emerging focus on participation, decentralization, with several papers highlighting the need to move beyond top-down approaches towards a more exclusive, locally grounded process of decision-making. The Working Paper 2 series, the key topics included creative placemaking and cultural regeneration. Should I stop? Yeah, sure. No problem. So the Working Paper 2 series, the key topics included creative placemaking and cultural regeneration, traditional knowledge systems and modern technology, inclusive design, youth participation in governance, inclusive and heritage-led planning, particularly in hill towns. There were some tracks that talked about that. And collectively, all the presentations highlighted the breadth and the interdisciplinarity of contemporary research, while also reflecting the exploratory nature of early academic inquiry. So in conclusion, the seminar highlights the youth and their agency and how this agency can be enabled via pedagogy and practice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Bandana, ma'am. So you can take your question forward, yeah. Since we have time now. I think mic is not working, but we can hear you very clearly.
I'm really thankful to you for showing us the use of assistive technology and AI in getting a better development for the inclusive population of our country. But there's another thing which I really wanted to ask your views on. AI in present context of our students has become a very low hanging fruit, and it is bringing in a cognitive shift in the sense that students are not applying themselves, and their management, planning, and design skills are now more dependent on AI than their own, cognitive skills. So, do you think the use of AI is bringing down the cognitive thinking of humankind?
Right. I think this is an extremely, thank you, ma'am, for raising a very important point. And as an academic myself, that's what is also been on observation, even in my own class, I would say, and many other faculty members are also reflecting. So I think two things have happened. Number one is that the capability of AI as a horizontal technology has undergone a major shift. That means it has gone beyond the confines of just computer science or AI as a discipline. It has entered the community. It has entered society as large. Now, society is at the moment evaluating AI, trying to engage with it. And still, I think our understanding about the right way of using AI is evolving. Now, the concerns which have come up are very valid, because if you delegate all your thinking to somebody else, then you don't develop the conceptual structures and the capability to be problem solvers later in life. So it's a myopic kind of a view, because what's going to happen 20 years down the line when you can't solve a problem, you can't do a task given to you, right? You can't make a diagram, you can't make an orthographic view. If you ask directly give a CAD model and say generate orthographic view and copy that, then you'd have lost that ability to visualize those kinds of things. So that's a challenge. Now, has any evidence emerged? No. So we are also examining that issue, but we are also looking at whether there's evidence, and I think research needs to be done in this regard. But I also am also hopeful in the sense that society will develop mechanisms to handle this eventually, either through policy interventions or through bringing a certain framework which is also self-directed. For example, something that we do is, whether AI should be used in our academic papers is a question. Now, the stance that at least I have taken and some other faculty members have taken is that you can use, but then it's your responsibility. Because if you cannot answer a question later on that decision, that means it's irresponsible use. So I think responsibility is where it's going to start in terms of use it for the things which are easier to work with. For example, grammar correction, I think still okay. But asking it to write the entire thing for you or design for you is not something which is there, because it will also hallucinate, and then you cannot say, oh, it's AI and AI made the mistake, it was not my mistake. No, it's your mistake, right? Because you use that tool. So I think that's where in the interim it's going to happen, and over time I think we'll have to evolve a certain kind of a strategy. I am particularly concerned at the school level, right? Because we have learned these skills and we can go back to those skills, and cognitive science also tells us that we can retrieve memories. But what happens to children is much more concerning, because if they don't even develop those capabilities, then they can't acquire that later in life, right? So I think that's where it's most critical, and that's where we need to be very, very careful. Maybe we'll have AI blockers or AI adaptations or age conditioned AI, which is going to do this responsibly. It's not going to give answers directly. It will not give certain kinds of comments to children, right? So just as we have that barrier in a home environment, a school environment, I think AI will also develop a school version, or it will be conditioned on the, rather than just direct access to everything. But it's an evolving thing. But I will also say that it's important to engage with these things. It's easy to say I will not use AI, but for how long, right? I think we got to engage, and almost like what we do as parents as well. Like we engage with something, we figure out what's good, we retain that, we try to block out the others. Yes. Uh-huh. Yes. Uh-huh.
How can it will reach to marginalized or EWS community?
Okay.
So they are also the part of.
Yeah, right. I think this is an important point, and it's not just connected to disability, right? It's also connected to the previous, speaker, that whenever we want to make socially conscious choices, they often tend to be expensive, right? So the question is, what are the mechanisms to to handle that kind of a scenario where the easier option may not be very good, right? You can design for the 90%, right? Nobody has asked you to design for somebody with autism, right? I mean, that's not something you think about. You know, something with somebody with a wheelchair, you'll not do that, right? Because it's a small percentage. But the question is, as a society, you know, what are our objectives, right? And any civilized society does care about inclusion, and we've historically done that. And I think that's where affirmative action or some kind of support happens. So, you know, I have a couple of sessions, for example, right? So when you're designing, it's actually not that difficult to design for everybody, right? So for example, for print disabilities, a collection of 10 disabilities like dyslexia, visual impairment, low vision, this, that, it takes just 5% extra to design for them. And it takes so much more effort to retrospectively correct that, which is what we've been doing in a couple of projects, right? So at the design level, and that's why your role becomes very important, that you can just do that 2% more. And you know, if you have an auditory output for a let's say a microwave or something, right, it suddenly opens doors for other people. If you just use a bigger LED at the time of designing, right, you can just cater for the elderly in that one go. I don't have to design another microwave for the elderly, and that's where the problem is, right? That's one. And I think the second part is that you know, for special needs, that's part of, you know, that's why we pay taxes in some sense, right? So as a society, we do feel that certain causes, even if they're not economically important, we should invest in them, because the child who's going to come from that support will also contribute to the nation's development in some way, right? So if you think in that way, then over, you know, the course of our lifetime, we'll get back the benefits of investing.
Yeah, okay, so we can continue. So it was interesting. I mean, the discussion was so engaging. So I have seen my friends, I mean, who are using ChatGPT and Perplexity. So they are even giving the prompts like, please do not hallucinate. So they know it will be hallucinating and they are giving the prompts as well. But another area of technological penetration, I would say, which is disturbing, is also even in parenting. Like my daughter one day was saying, Mama, you are always finding faults in my attempts, okay, at study. And see, ChatGPT is so encouraging. So it is always saying, you are really good. Yeah, so this is the right way. Excellent. So it is actually, I mean, very challenging for us as well. Okay, so may I now request Professor Dr. Poonam Prakash, Head of the Department of Physical Planning and Chairperson of the Steering Committee of ISDF 2026, to kindly share her reflections and concluding remarks.
Thank you, Jitinder, and thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to sum up the discussions. I wasn't there for the whole event, but I just went through the rapporteur's report and I found them. It seemed the discussions were really engaging from the concluding reports that I received, and it reflected diversity of ideas. And what was, I think, the most heartening was to see the young voices we had in the seminars. Usually we have, you know, very senior people talking about it, but this was different seminar in the sense we had most of the people who were very young and we had youth voices. So just kind of, so continuing with shared track-wise, I'll just try and abstract it overall. So as we trace this connection between creativity, inclusion, and technology in shaping the future, one recognizes that future is not built on a blank slate, I think. That was one of the things that I got from the report. It is layered, negotiated, and needs to be contextualized with the histories of spatial inequalities, aspirations, and everyday decisions. So designing the future, which was, I think, the broader theme, would require us to re-examine the idea of order, particularly in our context when it confronts with, you know, we are confronted with informality. It would also recognize the limitation of technological utopia and techno-rational expertise amidst, you know, where we are confronted with complex systems like cities, uncertainty, ambiguities. It is also to recognize the importance of diversity amidst homogenizing forces and importance of dialogue amidst grounded practices. In a country as diverse and unequal as ours, designing the future ultimately means creating frameworks that are flexible, yet imaginative and responsible. As I think the presentations we had discussions earlier. and above all, open to being reshaped by those whose lives we seek to transform, especially the young, who are already reimagining what that future looks like. I'm not getting into the track-wise this thing which Jyoti has already shared, but what stands out across all tracks is a set of shared concerns which are not necessarily new, but require continuous re-emphasis. These seem shift from top-down systems to more participatory processes, universal to more context-sensitive future, responsible use of technology, and from which was of particular interest to, close to my heart, is education not as an instruction, but education as a transformative process. To achieve these questions of governance fragmentation, data gaps, translation of participation into real power, these are some of the challenges that have emerged from the report. These are thus the starting points of future research, collaboration, and practice. The responsibility then is not just to talk about youth, but to create spaces where their ideas can actually influence decisions, where participation moves beyond tokenism and where their agency is taken seriously. In closing, this seminar has not just been a platform of presenting ideas, it has been a space for reflection. It has reminded us that designing the future is not just about predicting what lies ahead, but also about actively shaping it through inclusive processes, critical inquiry, and sustained engagement with the realities of our context. So I would like to thank all the speakers, chairs, rapporteurs, and participants for making this such a rich and thoughtful set of conversations, and all the organizers, Neha, Ankit, uh, Jitender, for just managing the show. And I know the formal vote of thanks someone else is giving, but just I am just there as a chairperson, but I think most of the work was done by the team that was there. Um, uh, and in any case, at the end, I think I would really like to thank that I'm part of this conversation, and I hope we continue to listen and learn from and build with the youth that we have with us here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for always guiding us. So I now take the privilege to invite Professor Dr. Virender Kumar Paul, Director SPA New Delhi, to kindly deliver the concluding valedictory address.
Very good afternoon. While she left just now, Rohan, faculty colleagues, participants, students, scholars, thank you very much for being part of this almost 3 days engagement on design. And it was a kind of a different opportunity where we look at design beyond the confines of what we professionally deal with, and do deal with it in a more a larger sense of how and what it does. Before I get into that, let me just give you a background of both the speakers. We kind of worked around who should be there, who should not be there. Of course, all the planning that we do, it does go for a change, but let me just introduce Payal in a slightly different way. She happens to be daughter of Dr. Jain and our mentor for almost like 35 years. And his Monday morning class till we left him in 2017. Monday morning class since 1985. Whenever I'm in Delhi, it was part of for my routine that morning 9 o'clock I would attend. So I attended practically 80% of his classes for almost 35 years. And there was a different reason for that, because he never repeated what he was doing, because every time there's something else that comes in, and that was engaging. So when we lost him, we decided that there's a legacy that we need to uphold for a variety of reasons, and that's where on the day of his last rites, the four of us, we decided that we're going to have the continuity of legacy. And um, uh, we formed the Prem Chand Memorial Trust, of which I happen to be the founder trustee. And we do a lot of other things as a Prem Chand Memorial Trust beyond what she does. And I don't get much of time these days because I'm here. But one of the things that we do is we regularly pursue sustainability in built environment across the country. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of students who are already engaged regularly. And there's a particular week when we actually do that more intensely. That's between the last week of January. We have a Prem Jan Mahotsav where it's kind of amplified a little further. So there's another side of the engagement. There was a question of sustainability and research. So we've been doing, and as a part of Prem Interest, we've been doing conferences on textile sustainability uh, uh, with a lot of foreign partners, especially the industry from Bangladesh and the high brands where circularity and those kind of things are also becoming very important because they all do the sourcing from Bangladesh, very, very large segment. So we do look at these kind of things. So I'm just giving a perspective that there's another side of the story, and she actually mentors villages where the chicken curry people actually work, so she mentors them, does some kind of a social banking along with that, etc. So there's a background to where and how we get into the sustainability. And the sustainability, has been brought in by Dr. Jan himself. That's one part. Rohan happens to be my nephew as well, so I will not get into too much of the introduction. It become very, very personal. So, and most of the work was actually we've seen the journey since the kind of third year onwards in IIT Delhi, and it kind of continues. And all these smart canes and these technologies in our family functions, we regularly distribute free of cost to large number of people. And that's engaging and learning how the impactful design itself. Let me build a story around that then. Uh, in fact, I was going to ask Payal, the next time you have a design show in Delhi, give us a few passes. It's always a delight to sit in the fashion show. Is a 1 hour of fashion show is a fantastic, and she works almost 6 months for that. So maybe next time I'll tell her. So let me iterate the theme and a little bit more structured manner. Uh, at the top is the theme of designing the future, and the future is in. By the way, this is not AI generated, so let me clarify. Now, the question that arises from the theme designing the future is very interesting. Future for whom? By whom? Is clear at the clarion call because it's a national program. And if any is addressed to the youth particularly, so the youth can design the future for the self, the youth can design the future for others, and others can include the notion of inclusion, the society. So what are we doing? Who do we design for? Do we design for me, for others? And others means it's the society or somebody else. And others can include where the creativity, innovation, and technology will go together as a driver as enabler. Creativity and innovation, in my understanding, they're interchangeably. But I'm sure there's a different nuance, which I don't know how to, because I'm not that profound to actually elaborate. But I tend to look at both of them in a more of kind of interchangeable manner. There can be variation. So when we youth design future for self, what can be the boundary conditions? When I design it for my own self, So there's a boundary condition that I designed for. And when you design future for others, including society, what can be the boundary condition? And interestingly, maturity in the society is dependent on its values. When you design for others, then automatically this notion of society extends to the value system, and that's where the culture comes in. So the design, then it extends into something different beyond me, into the larger paradigm of how do we live. The other is which I do it for my own self. I do it for my own self and I don't care. That's also another way we can do that. Then the question is whether or not the future for self and others is consistent, entwined, collective good. And don't we have the shared future with others, including the society? So when we're designing for somebody else, so we're looking at the shared future where it's not only today, we're looking at the shared future where I myself will also get impacted. That's where the question of notion of responsible design comes in. Because what I do is also for others, that somebody else is going to do for me as well. So that's where there's a bit of a complexity. And I'll give you a bit of a illustration on that. So from my management perspective, there are two ways to look at it. Very simple. Theory X, theory Y. Theory X says that everybody is lethargic and needs to be pushed, and they're not just going to actually work on their own, and they need some kind of a external stimulus, which could be by way of some motivation or maybe some kind of a push in a more stronger manner. And the theory Y is that where people will work with you. So when we design, do we look at the design in more sense of as a contempt? That I'll do it for you, I'll do it for others, or we do it together, we do it for all. Now there's a particular reason why I'm saying this, because very often we come across that there's a tendency to see, I'll tell you how to design. I'll tell you how to design a building for you. I'll tell you how to do it. This happens very often. And then somebody says that I don't live like this. I live differently. So there's a challenge. It's easier to me, I doing, and we. So the context changes. And that's where the story of responsibility starts becoming more and more complex. Because that's where the subtle difference from X to Y you tend to transition. And the impact is going to happen something very, very at some later time. We don't know when. So when there is a shared future, then there's a question. Then the implications of that, of looking at responsibility in a very confined manner, will affect you. There's some definition of design which I found in some International Council of Design, and it talks about formal training of design. And this is quite elaborate. I will not get into it. But there's a paradox. The paradox is, according to this one, it says design is a discipline of study and practice focused on the interaction between a person, user, and man-made environment, taking into account aesthetics, functional, contextual, cultural, and societal consideration. A formalized discipline, design is a modern construct. So it defines. For me, there's a paradox here. It says that there's a place where you're going to learn design, and there's a place where you will get into the design discipline. And that's something which we also face, that can architecture design be taught? Or am I going to facilitate? Or by my own facilitation, am I not going to create a clone? So there is a paradox. When it is taught, then where does the boundary happen? So for me, there is a bit of a question that it goes beyond merely, as Pyre was saying, that it's your innate quality. Let me just elaborate a little bit. So for me, the paradox is the human being has an innate, intrinsic quality of inquiry, jigyasa. So for me, design starts from somewhere else. It starts from an intrinsic inquiry, jigyasa. As a result, to think, innovate, and create is natural to all of us. Only just that we have to activate it. So to my mind, it's not a separate discipline, but it's me, myself, and what I am. So I see a designer in each one of us, and each one of us have to play a role. How we play a role and how we activate, that's our own calling. And it is, you cannot dissociate with that. But how productive and how connected you want to be with the society, culture, that's your journey. That's your journey. And it's your individual responsibility. So as a poet, as a designer, fashion designer, AI, robotics, everywhere, it permeates with the same kind of a construct in your own self. Let me expand it a little further. So we build future for others, and I am not included in that. Or will others, when they build future for others, the zillions of them, so others are building future for zillions of others, and wouldn't it include me as well? So when I say that I do it for everybody, my design thinking is not for me, for everyone. And when zillions of them are doing for everyone, I'm included in it. So why would I not allow that opportunity to happen where I cannot do it? Somebody else, what I do better, let me also do the same way. So to me, whatever innovation opportunity we have, that opportunity has to answer that question. Is it limited to me, my framework, or how it extends, how impactful it is? As I see it in different, let me put it another way. So there is a universality of design. There's a universality of design. It's just not restricted. It does impact, and it comes back. And for me, it's like some kind of a neural network where there is a convolutional, convolution network. So it's convoluted. It's so entwined neural system where you do something, the impacts we don't know where. It becomes so profound. And it has filters. It has filters, how, to whom it works. And we being architects and planners, we must remember that our interventions are so profound where that convoluted network of outcomes, how it will impact others as a solution. So there's something. So notion of design responsibility takes a different spin altogether. And there are, because in each one of these implications, there are relationships, illusions, and influences. And the essence of design is a responsible, complex, and universal relevance. हम कोई भी काम अपने लिमिटेड दायरे में नहीं कर सकते. जो भी हमारी क्लैरियन कॉल है, उसका एक यूनिवर्सल इम्पैक्ट है, वो dimension of design has to reflect somewhere. And what I said, and what I mean then is that whenever we do, it has a centrality of efforts encapsulated as design and how we are different in India. तो हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं कि हम जो भी डिजाइन में नया सोचते हैं उसका अपने आप एक यूनिवर्सल आउटकम है. दैट्स हाउ वी आर डिफरेंट. दैट्स वेयर it is not teaching in a given setting of a classroom. It evolves as my own thinking. And otherwise, how on earth we could think, अगर ये हमारी सोच ना होती, तो on how on earth did we have this notion of, very common we find it, how on earth did we have this notion of विश्व गुरु? ये जो मैंने करना सबके लिए करना, हम सब नहीं करना. So the notion extends far beyond. Where did it come? Because I'm not doing it for my own self. Somebody else is doing it with me, and it's incumbent on me to do something for others. So what is good for me is good for others. If it's not good for others, it's not good for me. So that is the fundamental premise, which I think is the is this notion. And we often think that it's some kind of a slogan which is limited to some kind of a, narrative, but there is much deeper understanding, and that's how we have seen solutions in so many different ways. And that's how this notion of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam comes, because I'm not doing it for me, I'm doing it for everybody. Then it goes into whether I believe the X or Y, everybody is productive or everybody is not productive. So I try to look at where did this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam come? Because it's something which we keep struggling to find. This comes from Maha Upanishad. बहुत आराम से बहुत यूज करते हैं. Whatever, it's in Sanskrit you can actually read. I mean, my Sanskrit is not going to be very profound if I recite. But what it says is, the verse, the shlok says is, is ये मेरा है और वह पराया है. Where this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam comes, and where the design versus universality comes in our innate cultural strength and how we are different. As a philosophical underline of our system, it says ये मेरा है वह पराया है, ऐसी गणना छोटे मन वाले लोग करते हैं, लेकिन उदार चरित्र वाले लोगों के लिए तो संपूर्ण पृथ्वी ही एक परिवार है. So there's a clear delineation of how you see yourself versus the other. And that's where the responsibility of the design outcome gets embedded. And that's something which differentiates between me and how a limited outcome of a classroom tends to become. So there's a notion of engineering design of tolerance. In management we do design of experiment, and there's a convergence of societal concern, the perpetual contemporariness. अब design का जब बात हो गया तो there has to be a perpetual contemporariness. It cannot be that it today happens and tomorrow it fails. परसों मॉर्निंग सेशन में एक बात हुई, कहा कि वो नलका जब आ गया तो पानी की प्रॉब्लम शुरू हो गई क्योंकि हमने पानी से डिसोसिएट कर दिया. एक बात हुई क्योंकि एक सोल्यूशन आ गया, डिजाइन सोल्यूशन आ गया कि हमारे पास नलका है, डिजाइन इंजीनियरिंग सोल्यूशन है कि पंप आ गया, बिजली आ गई, और डिजाइन सोल्यूशन है कि पानी आपके घर पहुंचेगा. ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी चीज है. अब उसमें यूनिवर्सैलिटी में प्रॉब्लम हो गया. यूनिवर्सैलिटी में प्रॉब्लम हो गया क्योंकि आपने पानी से डिसोसिएट कर लिया. तो आज जब हम कहते हैं कि पानी बचाओ, तो बचाना क्यों है? तो मेरा राइट हो गया. लेकिन पहले था कि ये आधार है मेरा, इसको बचाना है. जैसे बरगद की पेड़ की उन्होंने बात की. So we've seen it in Himachal very interestingly. So we had this system where rivers are living entities. Okay, so everything happens around that. Now today, once the notion is gone, the universality of the irrigation department tap solution is that my respect for the Bawali is gone. Bawali is in a dump. And what was Bawali doing? Giving you a sense of responsibility towards water, not to vitiate, not to dirty, not to pollute. And how I do bring the this culture in this? हमारे हिमाचल में आप ये तुम्हें पता हो ना, एक सुबह शादी जब होती है तो जो पहला इनविटेशन है, न्योता, वो बावली को दिया जाता है. तो या लड़का लड़की का जो मामा होता है वो सुबह 4 बजे सूरज चढ़ने से पहले वो बावली पे जाते हैं. तो उसमें द वर्स इज लाइक जागो चिड़ियो पखेरुओ मामा पानी भरना आया. चिड़ियो पखेरुओ, अब ये भी थोड़ा सोचना कि चिड़ियां क्या होती हैं और पखेरु क्या होती हैं, ठीक है ना. तो उनको जागने के लिए कहता है कि मामा नहीं, मामा न्यूदर देना आया, इनविटेशन देने आया. तो वहां जाते हैं तो पहले उसको न्योता देते. एंड द कल्मिनेशन ऑफ द वेडिंग इज दैट आफ्टर the couple comes home, both of them go to the Bawali and fetch water for the home, and that is the first ritual that is done. तो आपकी लाइफ का हिस्सा हो गया. आज एब्सेंस ऑफ दैट हम कहते हैं पानी बचाओ, हम कहते हैं वाटर बॉडी बचाओ, हम कहते हैं ये करो वो करो. तो इंटरवेंशन तो हो गई. Was that validated intervention? Did that the intervention ever think कि इसका नुकसान क्या होना? या जैसे एआई में भी बात हुई कि एआई का लॉन्ग टर्म क्या नुकसान हुआ, तो यहां तो देख लिया ना लॉन्ग टर्म त्रासदी क्या हुई. वो खत्म हो गया. ना पानी का एसोसिएशन, वो नालियां जो थी बावलियां, अब वहां पे जानवर भी पानी नहीं पीता. And what was the solution? Solution was a design solution of pumping system, irrigation, water supply. It was necessary, but where it should have stopped, that we never realized. थोड़ा सा एग्जाम्पल और है. हमारे यहाँ इरिगेशन की छोटी छोटी एक नालियां होती है जिसको हम कूल बोलते हैं, और बड़ी लंबी लंबी कूलें होती हैं. वो ग्रेडियंट जहां होता है ऊपर से उठा के हॉरिजॉन्टली चलता है, वो स्प्रेड करता है. एंड देयर वाज अ सिस्टम, कूल को मैनेज करने वाला जो व्यक्ति है, परिवार है, उसको बोलते हैं कूली. वो कूली जो है वो बताता है कि पानी इधर छोड़ना है या इधर छोड़ना है, आपके खेत में छोड़ना है. हिज डिक्टेट इज फाइनल. अब उसको देना, सबको बराबर बांटना है. उसका कोई काम नहीं है, उसके पास कोई तनख्वाह नहीं है. बट ही इज द फंडामेंटल मेन member of who is invited in all weddings, who is invited for every social activity. So he survives by the society. तो सोसाइटी ने उसको ऑन किया, सोसाइटी ने रिस्पेक्ट किया, एक सिस्टम बना. आज कूली खत्म. फिर आ गया डिजाइन सोल्यूशन ऑफ सीमेंट. ठीक है, सीमेंट आ गया, पोजोलोना आ गया, ओपीसी पीपीसी आ गया. बोले जी कंक्रीट कर देना, कंक्रीट आ गया. जो कंक्रीट आ गया तो बोले ये जो कूल है इसको हम कंक्रीट कर देते हैं, लाइन लगा देते हैं. तो पहले तो वैसे ही चलती थी, तो उसमें पानी नीचे जाता था, तो वहां पे धान की खेती होती. धान की खेती वो नस्ल जो एक अलग लेवल का उसका एक 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 टाइपोलॉजी थी, विच टुडे इज एक्सटिंक्ट. So extinction of that local rice variety, where is it? It isn't. Even if you go Himachal, you will still not find that. There's no seed at all, because it is the casualty of, क्योंकि पानी में वो नमी नहीं है, क्योंकि कंक्रीट हो गया, चला गया. अब नीचे हैंडपंप लगा दिया. अब बोलो जी नीचे से पानी निकालो और धान लगाओ. नीचे से पानी लगाया, वो नीचे से नीचे होता चला गया. कूल का पानी वहां आता नहीं क्योंकि उसकी जरूरत नहीं है, और पानी वो चला नहीं. अब वो नीचे जमीन चली गई, वहां पे अब खेती नहीं होती, धान वो चलता नहीं, उसकी वायबिलिटी नहीं है. अब बोलते पानी खत्म हो गया, उधर कूल खत्म, उधर जमीन खत्म. नाउ द डिजाइन सोल्यूशन ऑफ नेटवर्क ऑफ irrigation, small canals replacing an existing system, what is the universal outcome of it? There is nothing. I mean, we have lost the entire, the essence of what that, the entire culture वगैरह जोक भी था. So, और उसी का एक नतीजा जब हम बात करते हैं, तो आज बात करते हैं सस्टेनेबिलिटी, क्लाइमेट चेंज. क्लाइमेट चेंज हुआ क्यों हो गया? क्योंकि डिजाइन सॉल्यूशन था अनवैलिडेटेड, where we could only see that far. Farther than that, there was no way. On all these anthropogenic changes are solutions which hitherto were given as design, but had somewhere, or did it actually have the kind of universality it should have looked at? अब ये एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग शगुफा चलता है कि किसी को पूछो तुम क्या कर रहे हो, मैं सस्टेनेबिलिटी कर रहा हूँ आर्किटेक्चर में. वो आर्किटेक्चर क्या हो सकता है जो सस्टेनेबल ना हो? It is an innate quality of architecture to be sustainable. Similarly, it's an innate quality of design to be sustainable. तो कहीं पे वो जो नोशन है हमने उसको एक्सटर्नलाइज किया या वो हुआ, अब उसको एक्सटर्नलाइजेशन के थ्रू अंदर लेके आ रहे हैं, तो वो उतनी ही लेयर में रहेगा ना, उतनी ही लेयर में रहेगा. Actually, that's what I feel. You can subscribe to your own thought. I have no problem with that. But that's what I feel, that it's innate quality which we have allowed it to abstain. ये तो थोड़ा एक टेक्निकल सा एक जार्गन है, और बहुत सारे लोग कहते हैं कि कंस्ट्रक्शन मैनेजमेंट बैकग्राउंड के लोग हैं, टूटियां सीमेंट लगाने वाले हैं, तो ये डिजाइन डिजाइन की बात करते हैं, तो ठीक है, वो है हमारा, लेकिन वहां पे भी इंजीनियरिंग डिजाइन है. और एक आपकी, मेरा जो अनुभव है वो ये है कि डिजाइन आपकी एक व्यक्तिगत विचारों की अभिव्यक्ति है. आप क्या हो, it's an expression of what you are. And the moment we try to disconnect with that, there are issues. And you can have that with your poetry, you can have your paintings, you can have with anything else that you do. And we also do the same thing. तो हमारा भी एक डिजाइन है. हम ना पेंटिंग करते हैं, हम ना कुछ बिल्डिंग बनाते हैं, बनते कभी करते, कुछ कंस्ट्रक्शन में, हर एक डिसीजन में होता है. सो हाउ वी डिजाइन आवर थॉट्स, तो थॉट में भी तो डिजाइन होगा, फीलिंग्स का भी डिजाइन होगा, फीलिंग्स के एक्सप्रेशन का तो डिजाइन होगा ही, और फीलिंग्स के एक्सप्रेशन में क्रिएटिविटी होगी तो वो डिजाइन होगा. तो इट्स ऑन एन इंटेंजिबल डिमेंशन. So let me just share my smart cane or my chicken curry, which that allows, that's my personal space. Let me just share what I write. And that's for me and just for people who understand. So let me understand how we fluctuate. I mean, that can be a separate story, but how we fluctuate the language, its words. कभी हम वर्ब को एडजेक्टिव बनाते हैं, एडजेक्टिव को वर्ब बनाते हैं, तो ये सारा मम्बो जम्बो हम करते हैं. तो दो आपको कंपोजिशन बताऊंगा, एंड हाउ इट अलाउज यू टू थिंक इन अ डिफरेंट वे. So the first composition, as I write poetry, it's actually in Urdu, but I write it in Indian script because that other script not many people can understand. So the first one it says is the zindagi ख्वाहिशों के हवाले गुजरी है. So the life is now a personified, which in normal parlance we won't do it. So now I have taken it as a personification. So जिंदगी ख्वाहिशों के हवाले गुजरी है, गजब खुमारी तबाह करके उतरी है. So it's a paradoxical situation that your own interests have created problems for you, and it's you're still not very bad about it. So there is a notion of design. So let me complete that. Design जिंदगी ख्वाहिशों के हवाले गुजरी है, गजब खुमारी तबाह करके उतरी है, ढूंढने क्या निकले सब कुछ लुटा दिया, जिसे संजोते रहे वो रेशा रेशा बिखरी है, सफर का अंजाम धुआं होने को है, तस्वीर वक्त की किस कदर निखरी है, सीधे रास्तों ने सीधे रास्तों ने बहकने का मौका ना दिया, अपनी तो सीधी सादी सी दर बदरी है. Now, now the difficulty here is that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 4 verses. Now the problem of design is that the 4 verses in the type of composition it is, the 4 verses, each verse has its own complete message. The 4 together have a message, and that's a complete storyline. So this, it's not that you just write Bumbo Jumbo, Lamborghini, and woofer, that's one way. But there is a challenge you create, and that's how I write. So so what I'm saying is that there's an innate quality that we pursue. I don't know how good or bad it is. I just say, and many people say, "पर मेरे को समझ ही नहीं आता." कि मैं कहता छोड़ पर मेरे को भी नहीं समझ आता. ठीक है? There's another one. Let me just explain how the complex it can start becoming. So every design is going to be complex. Even 4 sentences. Believe you me, these 4 sentences can take half an hour, 1 hour. And many times 4 sentences will take 2 months. That is just not reaching where it needs to. And when it clicks, it clicks. It happens. Sometimes people say, बहुत दिन हो गया कुछ भेजा नहीं. उनको पता नहीं कि एक ही में फंसे हुए हैं. Another one is जब जिंदगी को जिद की तलब होती है, very very complicated, कि जिंदगी को जिद की तलब होती है. Why on earth you should get hardened? Problematic idea. जब जिंदगी को जिद की तलब होती है तो फिर इंजाम की किसको खबर होती है? क्या फर्क किसे दुश्मन समझे किसे दोस्त, जिंदगी तो अंधेरों से भी गुजरती है. दर्द का पिटारा खोलने से होगा भी क्या, किरण फूटने से पहले रात शबनम रोती है. अनजान संग दिल रास्तों के हवाले अजीज, अजीज इज माय पेन नेम, अनजान संग दिल रास्तों के हवाले अजीज, फिर से जिद की नई शुरुआत होती है. सो यू get knocked off in one zid. I want to do this. Night happens, disappointed. Next day, another zid. So there's a message. And that's me. That's my abhivyakti. So what I'm saying is that wherever you find, and if this message in my mind does not have a universality of impact, ये मेरे को सुनाने वाले के लिए सबके लिए नहीं है, तो ये मेरी किस काम की? क्योंकि किसी काम की होगी तो उसी का तो मेरा भी सोच आया होगा. तो वर्ड्स भी तो यूनिवर्सली मुझे मिलते हैं, मैंने भी किसी को दिए. And that's how we see, and to me, design is simply divine. It's divine. Let's not trivialize it. It's divine. If you are getting an opportunity to design, you are closest to the divinity, because design can only happen if you are in the present, and if you are in the present, you are blessed to be in the present as a divine intervention, and that's where it is. Let's design future for creativity, inclusion, the technology for everyone. For everyone, somebody is designing for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So I think what sir has inspired all of us is like, we must think before proposing any short-term design solution. We must do a consequential analysis of what we say, the long-term consequential analysis is very, very important, because if we have shared future, then we have shared responsibilities as well. So now we move on to the most awaited part of this valedictory session. All of you are waiting for the certificate distribution and the what we say and the best paper awards from each thematic track. So for taking the session further in this regard, so I would hand over the proceedings to Ms. Shivani from Department of Architecture.
Thank you, Jatinder ma'am. So moving on to the most awaited segment of the conference, that is the certificate distribution and declaration. A total of 5 tracks on various themes and 2 sessions of working papers were held over a span of 2 days. Presenters from various parts of India and one from Mexico presented their research papers, and we all were there. Now, I would like to invite our honorable guest, Dr. Rohan Paul, sir, along with our director, Dr. V.K. Paul, sir, and Poonam ma'am to kindly give the certificates to our participants. I would also like to invite the head of the Department of Architecture, Jyoti Pandey Sharma ma'am, for the same. Can we remove the chair? We shall start by distributing the certificates for paper presentation. Later on, we'll give the awards. So the first track was themed as Youth, Leadership and Social Entrepreneurship. So I would like to invite Prakriti Sahu.
So I request all the participants to please be ready since we are running out of time now.
Prakriti Sahu, Participatory Urban Design for Informal Settlement Upgradation, a case of Veerchand Patel Marg near Patna Junction. Please give a big round of applause. Mani Gupta. The next. Mani Gupta for Governance and Women's Safety in Delhi's Built Environment, a multi-dimensional review and policy framework. The next is Vaishnavi Gore, Museums as Spatial Instruments Supporting Creative Culture, Integrating Community, Economies, Creative Placemaking, and Youth Identity through Spatial Planning. Next, we have track 2, which was themed as Creative Cultures and Identity. Saurabh Singh, Managing Transport, Heritage Conflicts and Historic Urban Cause towards a planning framework for inclusive mobility. May I have Saurabh Singh? The next is Shayan Chatterjee, Hallucination of In-Between, Reinterpreting Liminality through Tribal Aesthetics and Migrant Narratives. Next, we have Harshit Vasu. Is Harshit here? No. Next is Akansha Bhardwaj. Okay, I think she's not there. So we move on to track 3. We move on to track 3, which was titled as Inclusive Design and Social Futures. Mugdha Dhavle, Culture and Walkability in Indian Urban Cause, Creative Cultures and Identity. Next is Shreya Sharma, Disability, Inclusive Planning in School Architecture, Lessons from Neuro-Inclusive Environments for Children with Autism. Please keep applauding for all the researchers. Next, we have Vivek Jain, Beyond Vision, an empirical study of multisensory and universal design in inclusive institutional environments for visually impaired users. The best paper award will be given right after that. You guys are hungry. We know where you're impatient. So are we. I'll wrap it up soon. Shayak Bhattacharya. Shayak. He's not here? Okay. We'll move on to track 4, Technology and Transformation. Aditya Shukla. Geopolymers for Sustainable Soil Stabilization, a comprehensive review. Okay. Next is Shama Shukla. Okay, I think she's not here. We'll move on to Tushar Manhotra. Do we have Tushar here? No, I think. We'll move on to Juan Pablo for his paper on data-driven mobility planning as a mediating infrastructure, big data, AI, and integrational participation in the Lake Chapala region, Mexico. Juan joined us from Mexico. Please give him a big round of applause. We hope you had a good time here in India. It was his first time in Asia. And he already has started looking like us. Next is Pardeep Kaur. Oral architecture and sound mitigation in urban parks, the case of Connaught Place. Moving on to track 5, which was titled as Creative Education in Future Learning Systems. The first is Vipin Wilson. Learning by making, a hands-on pedagogy for creativity and critical thinking in sustainable furniture design. Thank you. Can we have Smriti G? Designing for mind, architecture, emotion, and everyday well-being. Next, can we have Nishant Modi for his paper on From Hands-On to Virtual Redefining Spatial Experience Through the Digital Turn. The last from this session was Pinakin Datta, Contextualizing AI in Architecture, Overcoming Bias and Execution Fragmentation in India. Now we move on to the working paper segment. So first, can we have Asmi Sengar? Engaging Youth in Urban Transformation, a community-driven approach to street redesigning, context of Ahmedabad. Do we have Keshav Tandon next? Yeah, Keshav Tandon, Designing for Divided Attention, Reframing Partial Attention as an Accessibility Condition. Can we have Aarti Sharma? Impact of urbanization on transformation of building use, case of Una, Himachal Pradesh. Next is Sanika Ajit Khune. Workspace appropriation in cafes in Delhi, a study of furniture affordances and spatial adaptations. Next is Anushka Dhankar, identifying, preserving micro-scale vernacular identity anchors in post-disaster reconstruction of Garhwal region, Uttarakhand. The next session of the working papers on the day 2, can we have Parthi Sharma? Creative placemaking and cultural regeneration. Next is Aman Singh. Can we have Aman Singh? For collaborative design and modern technology as catalyst for sustaining cultural identities. I'd like to mention most of the presenters of this session were all first-year students from bachelor's, so kudos to their spirit. Chauhan Rakshita, Design for Disability or Different Ability. Next is Danda Charan, From Digital Engagement to Institutional Influence, Youth Participation in India's Governance System. Last but not the least, Akshita Sharma, Integrating Inclusive Planning Strategies in North Indian Hill Stations, the case of Dalhousie. Now, moving on to the best papers. From track 1, the best paper award goes to, I would like to invite our director, sir, to kindly give the awards. ठीक है. So track 1, Youth Leadership and Social Entrepreneurship. The best paper goes to M. Arun Shankar. Paper was titled as Youth as a Catalyst in Urban Nighttime Economy. I think he has already left. We'll move on to the second track, Creative Cultures and Identity. The best paper award goes to Shayan Chatterjee for his paper, Hallucination of In-Between, Reinterpreting Liminality Through Tribal Aesthetics and Migrant Narratives. Please give him a big round of applause. For track 3, Inclusive Design and Social Futures, the best paper goes to Saubhagya Mittal. Saubhagya is not here. There's another special mention which goes to Gayatri Rakesh. Do we have Gayatri? Moving on to track 4, Technology and Transformation. The best paper is shared by 2 people. The best paper goes to Pardeep Kaur for paper Oral Architecture and Sound Mitigation in Urban Parks, the case of Connaught Place. And the other person to share the best paper award is Juan Pablo for his paper Data-Driven Mobility Planning as a Mediating Infrastructure, Big Data, AI, and Integrational Participation in the Lake Chapala region, Mexico. Big round of applause for Juan Pablo, please. For track 5, Creative Education and Future Learning Systems. The best paper for track 5 goes to Mr. Nishant Modi for his paper From Hands-On to Virtual, Redefining Spatial Experience Through the Digital Turn. And there's a special mention also. The special mention goes to Vipin Wilson for his paper Learning by Making, a Hands-On Pedagogy for Creativity and Critical Thinking in Sustainable Furniture Design. We also have awards in the section of working papers from both the sessions. So the first one goes to Asmi Sanger for her paper on Engaging Youth in Urban Transformation, a community-driven approach to street redesign, context of Ahmedabad. And the second one goes to Akshita Sharma, Integrating Inclusive Planning Strategies in North Indian Hill Stations, the case of Dalhousie. Akshita Sharma. Nishant has just joined. Can we have Nishant's certificate and award? Nishant, do you know you've got a best paper award? Oh. So in track 5, Nishant Modi got the best paper award. We're done with all the best papers. We're done. So we're done with the awards. Please, one more round of applause for all the researchers, presenters for showing the zeal for 2 days. Thank you so much, sir.
Since we are running late, so we shall have the feedback session in the afternoon, post lunch. Okay, so Peter Drucker, a famous management thinker, once said, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." In many ways, the ideas and discussions envisaged for this seminar aligned with this spirit. When we all started with our journey with core question that concerned all of us, and the question was, how do we design the future in a way that is inclusive, ethical, creative, and sustainable? And at the end of this 3 day academic discourse, the design has emerged as a powerful medium, not only for creating objects and spaces, but for shaping social behavior, accessibility, identity, and collective well being. ISDF provided much needed opportunities of dialogue and collaboration across disciplines to explore that possibility so that design contributes positively towards a better future we all want to live in. To formally conclude the seminar, I invite architect Neha Prakash Kode to deliver the formal vote of thanks.
I will not take more than 2 minutes because I know everyone is hungry and the food is also getting. On behalf of the organizers, it is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks for this last day of valedictory session of the International Seminar on Designing the Future, ISDF 2026. I, along with my colleague Dr. Ankit Kumar Singh, Dr. Jatinder Kaur, Dr. Abhijit Rastogi, Mr. Mohammad Athar Mansuri, and architect Thomas Krishna Pegu, extend our deepest gratitude and appreciation to all those who contributed to the success of this event. We are profoundly thankful for the support and encouragement of the Department of Youth Affairs and Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, Government of India. We sincerely acknowledge the invaluable guidance of Professor Architect Habib Khan, Chairperson of BOG SPA Delhi, also the Chief Patron of the seminar, and Professor Dr. Virendra Kumar Paul, Director SPA Delhi, Patron for the academic leadership. Our heartfelt thanks to Professor Dr. Jyoti Pandey Sharma, Head of the Department of Architecture, SP Delhi, and also the convener of the seminar, for our strategic input and unwavering support. We are equally grateful to the steering committee led by Professor Dr. Poonam Prakash, Head of the Department of Physical Planning, working committee, and the working committee of the seminar. I just want to actually thank everyone. Can you please just stand? Prashansa, Renu, Ashita, Shivani, Akanksha, Anjali, Akriti, Ananya, Tanya, Pandey. I think without them, the complete event was, they completely actually supported for all 3 days. Special recognition is owed to all the academic advisors, internal committee, and academic review committee members of the seminar for their guidance, analytical insights, for the strengthening the intellectual dimension of this event. Finally, we extend our sincere gratitude to all the expert panelists, all the authors, session chair, co-chair, contributor whose generous support made the successful organization of this seminar possible. The research contributions of young students, PhD scholars throughout the event were invaluable in creating an academic engaging atmosphere for all. The International Seminar ISDF 2026 stand as a testament to the collaborative efforts of academia and government towards advancing knowledge and strengthening the global network for youth-led innovation ecosystem in designing the future. Thank you all for making ISDF 2026 a truly remarkable and memorable experience. I would also like to acknowledge the efforts of organizing committee, faculty member, and the technical team at the school whose dedication and hard work have made this initiation possible. Finally, I also like to thank the thought that the seminar was actually designing by youth for the future. I think it is the thought which I thank, that the seminar was for the youth by the young mind. So I'm just carrying that thought ahead, that it is not just young by age, but I think young being the in our mind also. Thank you so much, and please join us for the lunch.
So there are few other things to be done before we break for lunch. Sorry. So with this, we actually are formally concluding the international seminar for designing the future. On behalf of the organizing team, we once again thank all the speakers and participants, those who have contributed in making this seminar a great success. As we wrap up the session, we carry with us not only the ideas shared over these 3 days, but also a renewed energy to continue these conversations and explorations. The discussions have certainly given us much food for thought and a spirit to contribute meaningfully to the applied research in the field of design. I hope that all of us shall keep fueling the idea of the ideal designed world until we meet for many such enriching exchanges in the future ISDF. So we shall meet again very, very soon. Before we close the formal proceedings of the seminar, may I request all present to kindly rise for the national song followed by the national anthem.
कब शुभ नामे जागे, कब शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे कब जय गाथा, जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे, जय हे, जय हे, जय 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 हे।
Please be seated, ladies and gentlemen. So we invite all of you to join us for lunch. So thank you once again. Have a wonderful day. Jai Hind.